All right, wonderful to be here. I can barely see you with the slides. But I'm here to tell you a little bit about carbon equity. And carbon equity is a climate, private equity, fund investing platform that seeks to unlock 177 trillion in mass affluent wealth to power the world's most impactful climate technology companies. In the next couple of minutes, I'll tell you why we do, what we do, why I think it makes a lot of sense, particularly now, how we do it, what we've achieved to date, and where we're going. Why do we do what we do? In 2019, I read this book, The Sixth Extinction. Has anybody read it? No? I highly recommend it. The Sixth Extinction talks about the 5 major extinctions in the history of the planet, amongst others, the extinction of the dinosaurs. And she details in this book in how the past 300 years, temperature increases, loss of biodiversity have gone at a scale and at a speed unprecedented in the history of the planet. We are undeniably in the midst of the 6th extinction. And what I realized is that that ends somewhere, and that could be human extinction. At that point in time, I quit my job as a partner in the Dutch venture capital fund and decided to spend the next 30 years of my career helping build companies that fight climate change. And I chose as my weapon of choice capital, because ultimately money decides what happens in the world. Whether we like it or not, money decides. So I started off with the question, how do we really move the needle on climate change? Because in the next 10, 20, 30 years, we will need to transform our entire economy from fossil addicted to fossil free. And that means we'll need to rebuild every brick. We need to replace every brick of that fossil fuel economy, from the way that we eat, the way that we move, to the way that we produce. And that's going to require a hell of a lot of money. We will need trillions in capital. But it matters not just that we have the money, but how we're investing the money. So when me and my co-founders started off with the question, how do we move the needle? What we observed was that trillions of capital were moving into ESG stocks. I'm not saying that ESG is bad. It can make a lot of sense to mitigate the risk of your portfolio to invest in ESG. But it is not the way to drive impact. If I buy a share of Tesla, virtually nothing happens, right? What happens in the real world economy? Is Tesla producing more cars? No, in fact, I'm buying a stock of somebody else, and my additionality as an investor is very limited. So our thesis was, if you want to have impact, meaning how do I move from situation A to situation B, then you have much more impact by investing in private equity rather than in public stocks. Unfortunately, the vast majority of people in the world have no access to private equity. If I take the perspective of a retail investor, what are my options? Well, either I can invest in listed stocks, but the impact is very low, or I can be a crowd equity or angel investor, which can have a lot of impact, but is also very, very risky and very time and resource intensive. So what do the pros do? The pros invest in funds, in venture capital and private equity funds, where you leverage professional expertise to manage your investments, and where you invest in a diversified basket of companies to manage your risk. Unfortunately, the vast majority of people, again, has no access to these funds. Why? Because you need a lot of money to participate. Typically, you need 5 million euros plus to be able to invest in a top fund. And secondly, even if you wanted, you would probably not have the network or the knowledge to do so. What carbon equity does is we slash those hurdles. We lowered the capital hurdles initially from 5 million to 100,000, and recently we introduced the possibility to invest as low as 10,000 euros in the world's top climate venture capital and private equity funds. And we do that fully in a digital way. Why does this make sense, in my opinion? Well, first of all, there is a hell of a lot of money. Mass affluent investors, defined as people with a net worth in excess of 100,000 euros, have 177 trillion in net worth. That is 3 times the amount of total invested assets by institutional asset managers. So the mass affluent market is 3 times the size of the institutional asset management market. Secondly, mass affluent investors are heavily underinvested in alternative investments. High net worths or very high net worths invest over 50% of their assets in alternative investments versus just 14% for mass affluents. The core thesis of platforms such as ourselves, Moonfair, iCapital, is that once you open the gates, you're going to see a tremendous growth in alternative investment, in private equity allocations of mass affluent investors. Why now? There are two key trends that we're riding, two mega trends. The first is private equity democratization is the next wave in opening up investment markets. The first wave 5 years ago was self-directed stock trading, so the republics of this world. What they did is they opened up access for millennials to do self-directed trading, similar to what banks had been doing before. Now these millennials are coming to market. They are coming of age, they're entering the wealth market, they're starting to peak in their careers. So the next frontier of democratized investing will be private equity investing. The second key mega trend is what I call the great search for meaning, which we all seen during the Corona peak, where people started to transition from their careers into impact careers. People are looking for impact. We saw three waves in the past 5 to 10 years. The first wave was green marketing. Just market anything green and the consumer would buy it. The second wave was ESG, investing in so-called sustainable stocks. Now we're at a point where people are starting to get critical and to think, okay, but what is in my stock portfolio? How am I really moving the needle? And the third frontier is that people are looking to really have an impact with their capital and hence are looking for impact. So what does carbon equity do to facilitate these customers? We do three things, quite simply. The first is we invest in funds. So carbon equity curates funds. Carbon equity is investment management meets scalable fintech. We look through approximately 800 to 1,000 climate, venture capital, growth equity, and buyout funds, and we select the top 5%. Secondly, we enable access. Through our platform, people can invest in single funds, in portfolio funds, and next year we'll be launching co-investment opportunities. And the third thing is we make it scalable. The tech stack at Carbon Equity consists of 3 layers. The first is an end-to-end digital investing platform, making it easy, seamless, UI-friendly to invest in private equity by yourself. The second layer is what I call the engagement engine. The great missing opportunity in investing is bringing to life what you're investing in. Through our platform, through the app, you can see exactly what companies you're invested in, what they're doing, video content, get personalized suggestions for webinars or videos that you can follow, and really bring it to life. And this is where I believe people can build, where we can build an emotional connection with investors. One of my great personal missions is to change the narrative about investing. Investing is not just about making more money. The moment that we start to think about money not just as what we have, but about what it enables us to do, money as a means to build the future, it gets so much more exciting. And the third is that we want to improve the way that retail investors have access to private equity. So think about secondary market trading, think about subscription-based investing. Carbon equity's one huge asset as a business model is a very long customer lifetime value. So we have customer lifetime values of 10 to 13 years, which results with management fees between 30 to 100 basis points in a very attractive unit economics, up to 10x lifetime value versus customer acquisition costs. So how are things going to date? We started approximately 2 years ago. We launched our first funds 1.5 years ago. In the past 12 months, we've raised over 85 million euros through our platform with over 375 customers. Our team is 16 people, and we built a pretty strong brand in the Netherlands and Belgium where we started. What is the next frontier? The long-term goal is to raise 1 billion in assets under management to power climate technology companies in the first 5 years, 10 billion in the next 10 years. For that, there are 3 key priorities in the coming year. The first is to build a scalable sales engine. Now we have found our customer, and we understand why our product makes sense and where to find that customer. Now we need to move towards predictable revenue and scalable commercial engine. The second is that we need to scale internationally, so we'll start operations in Berlin and London very soon. And the third is that to power this growth, we'll be raising a Series A of 10 million in Q4 of 2023. If you want to learn more, please connect with me on LinkedIn, Jacqueline van den Ende, and many thanks for the opportunity, Marco.
Thank you so much.